Today on Bench Briefs, we're looking at a pivotal Supreme Court of Canada decision from 1993, known as R v. Gosset. This case dives into the heart of your rights when dealing with police, especially about how evidence is collected and whether your charter rights are respected during an investigation. It's a classic example of how the courts balance law enforcement powers with individual freedoms. So, what happened in R v. Gosset? Mr. Gosset was charged with a criminal offense, but the real focus wasn't just on the crime itself. It was on how the police conducted their investigation. Specifically, the case centered around the way the police interacted with Mr. Gosset, how they gathered evidence, and whether that evidence was obtained fairly and lawfully. The questions raised were about whether his rights under the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms had been violated, particularly the rights related to search and seizure and the right to counsel. Here's a bit more detail. When the police questioned Mr. Gosset, they collected certain evidence that later became crucial in the trial. However, Mr. Gosset's defense argued that the police didn't follow proper procedures and that the way the evidence was obtained breached his charter rights. For instance, they questioned whether Mr. Gosset was properly informed of his right to speak with a lawyer before any search or questioning took place. They also challenged whether the search that produced the evidence was lawful. These issues are important because if evidence is obtained in violation of the charter, it can be excluded from trial, which might affect the outcome of the case. The trial judge had to decide whether to admit or exclude this evidence. The judge's decision would hinge on whether the police had respected Mr. Gosset's constitutional rights during their investigation. This is no small matter because the fairness of the trial depends on it. If evidence was gathered unlawfully, admitting it could undermine the integrity of the justice system. On the other hand, excluding critical evidence might mean a guilty person goes free. So the courts have to strike a careful balance. When the case reached the Supreme Court of Canada, the justices focused on two key charter rights: the right to counsel and protections against unreasonable search and seizure. Section 10B of the Charter guarantees that anyone arrested or detained must be informed of their right to consult a lawyer without delay. Section 8 protects individuals against unreasonable searches and seizures, meaning police need proper authority or justification before they can search someone or their belongings. The Supreme Court examined whether the police had respected these rights in Mr. Gosset's case. Did they inform him promptly of his right to counsel? Was the search that uncovered evidence conducted with proper legal authority? And importantly, if any rights were breached, should the evidence be excluded to preserve the fairness of the trial? The court's analysis reaffirmed the importance of these charter protections. It emphasized that the right to counsel is fundamental in safeguarding individual liberty and ensuring that police powers are exercised lawfully. The court also clarified the standards police must meet when conducting searches, reinforcing that evidence obtained through improper searches risks being excluded. Why does R v. Gosset matter beyond this individual case? It's a cornerstone decision that helps define the limits of police conduct in Canada. It reminds law enforcement officers that respecting charter rights isn't just a formality. It's essential to the legitimacy of the justice system. For accused persons, it underscores the protections you have if you find yourself in police custody or under investigation. And for lawyers and judges, it provides guidance on how to handle evidence obtained under questionable circumstances. In short, R v. Gosset is about fairness and the rule of law. It balances the state's interest in investigating crime with the individual's right to be treated justly and with respect to constitutional safeguards. This case continues to influence how courts evaluate evidence and protect rights in criminal proceedings. Thanks for listening to this episode of Bench Briefs. Be sure to join us next time as we break down another important legal decision shaping Canadian law. Until then, stay curious and keep questioning.